So I finally watched Euphoria, well, the first 6.5 episodes. My original plan was to binge watch all of season 1 and the 2 or 3 episodes from season 2 that just came out, but it's currently 2:27 in the morning and I'm out. I'm not sure if I'm going to go back to this show. But I have some stuff I wanted to say about it and I thought it'd be the perfect opportunity to do a review. Now this isn't going to be like my manifest videos where I recap every episode in maximum detail. I simply couldn't do it with this show, but I don't really plan on recapping much of it at all. I just want to talk about it, you know? But before we get into Euphoria, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on that notification button for future videos. And for the people wondering, it's Cassie, man, plain and simple. And that's all I'm gonna say about it. Well, maybe, for now. So the main thing I wanted to go into the show with was removing all expectations, even though it's almost impossible with a show like this. Ever since it came out, but especially since season 2 dropped, it's been the most talked about show on the internet. No matter your interest, you've seen a picture of Zendaya in a scene, or at least someone's quick Twitter review online. I mean, after episode 1 of season 2 dropped, everyone thought the whole season released the way people talked about it 24/7. But yet somehow that 48 minutes captivated millions. But this leads into one of my main questions I have with this series. Who is this show for? But I'll get into that later. Back to my expectations. I've heard it all because I do have a lot of film and TV stuff in my social media feed, but my main impressions were that people either loved it, and those people were most likely teenage girls, people thought it was overrated, or people thought it was okay but the cinematography and production value were great. I lean more towards the third, but I'll admit it now, I don't necessarily think the cinematography is 10 out of 10. I mean, there were some great shots, but overall I think it's just really solid with a couple of really good highlights. Now the storyline, the highlights are not as frequent. Zendaya is a great actress and she plays her character very well. I think having her as a lead was probably the best move because she does really convince me of her character, and same with Fez. I mean, I knew I was going to like him based on his character and story overall, but he did that too, especially for his first acting job. Their dynamic was great and was the story I was able to relate to the most, and I just wish we saw more of it, but hey, maybe it's in season 2. But personally, my favorite character was probably Jules though. First episode I was about to turn it off until her character came on and I just had to know her story. I think she has the most interesting life among the characters and at sometimes the best wardrobe. I know a lot of people say Rue, but Jules had a couple crazy fits, man, don't sleep. Well shit, I don't really have a lot more good things to say, so let's just get into my favorite highlights now. The shots, the colors, the soundtrack, and the overall cinematography. Now, I had watched Noel Miller's video about the show before I watched it, and honestly, I took away the same thing that he did. It's really solid, but if you watch some of the shots and how they filmed the show, it's actually really inspiring and gave me a lot of ideas personally. The first one that comes to mind is after Rue takes some pills in the bathroom, she starts walking on the walls as it kicks in. Also, a lot of the shots with Jules on her bike looked amazing, and of course, the carnival scene with the fireworks looked amazing too. But again, besides these few stellar shots here and there, the cinematography was just solid, but my favorite part was probably the lighting and the colors. When it comes to the set design too, they did a really good job. It might not be the most accurate, but the lighting and colors really added this whole drug trip of a TV show. The colors for me make it to where you want to keep your eyes on the screen, and again, were just super inspiring for my own creative mind, but now let's talk about keeping your eyes off the screen with this TV show. I know me and you guys are still getting to know each other, but personally I'm a heterosexual male, but I'm a strong advocate for the LGBTQ rights in the whole community, but I'm just not a fan of visual penis. Yeah, let's just state the obvious, man. There's just way too much penis in this show. At first I was like, oh, I'll just look away. But when it turns into a 60-year-old man jacking off or a man having sex with an underage transsexual, I just can't, bro. I felt like I was missing parts of the story because I had to skip the gay sex scenes, even some of the straight ones too, because I have roommates and they were fucking so goddamn loud, but man, I do not remember seeing that much penis in high school. Now yes, obviously you're gonna be like, well James, you liked the Sydney Sweeney sex scenes, didn't you, you hypocrite? Well yes, obviously those did not get skipped, but I just don't want to see a bunch of penis, man, and I didn't think it was actually going to be a problem with the show, but it kind of was, man, I can't even lie. And I don't want to dive into this subject anymore because I don't want to get canceled before I'm even on, but yeah, man, there's just way too much penis. Anyone can agree. There's like 10 times more than anything else in the show. Alright, so sex. Who here watching this video can honestly say people at your high school had that much sex? I barely know people in college with these kind of sex stories, and they're 16 and 15 years old. Some of them are 15 years old, bro. I think. I'm not sure, but they seem like it. Now, do I think the sex in the show is problematic? No, if you're not old enough, you shouldn't be watching it in the first place. But even though these characters are all well above age in the real world, halfway through I realized we're just watching actors act out underage sex. And again, like I said, if you're not old enough, do not watch it. But we know that's not how it works. That's not how the world works. And we also know that the largest part of the Euphoria audience is teenage girls, and I just hope that the show hasn't normalized underage sex with older men for them, because I don't think I'm in the minority when I say I didn't want to see a bunch of underage sex. I think I'm How about we just stop it right there before I get canceled again? But drugs on the other hand, I think that this show, when it comes to drugs, might be a little problematic. So the reason I could relate to Rue and Fez's story the most is because I've known people like that. And after I had a friend OD, my biggest problem was how the person acted like it was no big deal when they survived and has since continued to do drugs, kind of just like Rue. But I'm aware that the show is trying to show the real sides of life, but it's different when the show is mainly popular amongst 16-year-old girls and guys too, I guess. And I know I'm all over the place, but just try to follow with me. So my problem with the drugs in this show is that the younger audience is attaching themselves to these characters and idolizing some of them, especially when you put Zendaya in the cast. I'm gonna go more in depth on this after, but this show literally talks about everything. Mental health, sexual assault, identity issues, family dynamics, everything. So people have at least one thing to attach to. Now adults have had more experience and most likely are aware of different solutions, but impressionable teens aren't. And I feel like if they think their life is just like Cassie's or just like this character, they might want to cope with those same problems in the same way. Does this happen? I'm not sure, I don't know, but who's to say one of those teens online who thinks their life is the same exact as Rue's thinks it's okay to deal with their life in the same exact way? But the main thing that brought this point up to my attention was how Rue raved about fentanyl and how it's the best high ever, but kids don't need to hear that, man. Like, I know you're supposed to be 18 when you watch that, but when I heard that, bro, something about it just did not sit right. Like, I felt it. It was kind of, especially during the time, it was kind of disgusting. I don't know, man. I just know I wasn't doing that many drugs in high school. The people I went to high school weren't doing it. I know a couple were, but college, on the other hand, is a little bit different, I will admit. So to me, this isn't any less or more accurate than a similar show like 13 Reasons Why, but it feels like they just took a bunch of college kids and then shoved them back in high school. Obviously, all the characters are like full-grown adults, but the things they do would fit more in a college campus, if that makes sense. And the way they react to things and think is a lot more juvenile, but only a few kids were taking Xans at 7 a.m. at my school, not the entire upper class. I went to a public school in a more like suburban part of town, if that's what you want to call it, meaning a lot of rich white kids, but only like 3 people, like I said, I went to high school out of the 1,500 would even barely fit in Euphoria. Like there was no sex tape of a junior girl getting double teamed that everybody had on their phone. There was no one secretly recording a girl and uploading their sex on a Pornhub. A couple people again were doing liquid Xans in the bathroom, but everyone just smoked weed and drank. A couple people tried coke that I knew of, and some girls did it when they hung out with older guys, but no one was railing lines by themselves in their bedroom. Like, Rue did coke in her bedroom, and I don't even know what she did after. She was just doing coke just to do coke. Oh yeah, and only a couple girls were doing stuff with older guys, but older by like a few years, not like 40-year-old men and shit. And I know they're in like California or something, and I don't know if that changes that much. And again, I know the purposes behind this show, but what's wrong with making it just a little more accurate? Just a little. Who am I kidding? Everybody just wants to see crazy stuff, we know. So who is this show for? Rue, the main character, was born right around 9/11, which is really close to when I was born. This, along with references like Jersey Shore and other late 2000s, early 2010s nostalgia, made me feel like the show was for my generation and people my age, but I don't know, man. The series came out right after I graduated high school, and now it's blown up as I'm over halfway through college, so is it for high schoolers now, or is it still for people my age? But then the subject matter is way too much. All of it is way too much for anyone under 18, realistically under 16. But the acting and the storyline is more suited for like a younger audience. Or should I say the storyline and acting is more simple and something younger people could watch like without confusion, if that makes sense. But then there's copious amounts of drugs and nudity, so it has to be for a mature audience, right? Well, honestly, I don't really know, because the director kind of sounds like a creep, and Drake executive produced it, so who really knows? But back to my point about how they bring up literally everything. So anyone can relate to some part of the show in some way. You can relate it to your own high school experience, you might relate to some of the things the characters go through or one of the characters specifically, or you might even know someone who reminds you of someone in the show. And I know I shit on the acting a little bit, but the good actors really make you feel their emotions, and emotions are something we can all relate to. Well, almost all of us. What I'm trying to get at is I understand why people love this show so much. It's kind of made for everyone. These are all very real issues that a lot of people go through, and I think they just needed to put it in a marketable way, and for some reason, high school was the way to do it, but anyone can relate to this. It doesn't really matter your age. If you can look past the penis and the problematic drug use, you'll find something for yourself. For me, it was the cinematography, the acting from Rue, Jules, and Fez, and of course, Sydney Sweeney. Just a couple more things I want to talk about before we get out of here and I finalize my opinion. The Bob Ross interrogation scene was absolutely hilarious at the Halloween party. The little kid drug dealer, I haven't talked about him yet. He didn't really work for me at first and at all, but I thought he had some funny scenes. He was just too much. Like, it was just kind of like way too over the top for me. I really fucked with Kat and her story, and shout out to all my Manifest fans watching, because Levi makes an appearance, although his cameo is probably not the most memorable. Nate is fucking crazy, but there are some guys like that I've met, and I fucking hated anytime Maddie or this hot Cheeto girl was on screen. I don't even know the hot Cheeto girl's name. I just really did not like these two. And also, I need Jules' hoodie from the end of episode 5. I don't know who made that, where she got that, but I'm gonna need that. But lastly, because first I'm a music guy, I gotta shout out the soundtrack one time. Could've used a little bit more original scores if that makes sense, kinda just to fill out the rest of the episodes, but I thought the majority of the music was great and fit perfectly. So I know this show was made for young people today because they had Narcos by Migos and Nonstop by Drake playing. But that's honestly really accurate to how high school parties were. I mean, all I heard was the Migos during high school. So now I just associate their music with anxiety attacks. Oh, and then 151 Rum by Jid came on. That was fucking crazy, but overall, I think the soundtrack added a lot to the show. There's not really much to say about it, but the fact that they had Jid on there, shout out to you guys. So like I said, I only watched 6.5 episodes, but depending on the reception of season 2, I might check it out. But again, it's not for me, but it kinda is at the same time. I would say everyone should at least give it a try if you're of age. I mean, please, if you're of age, and if you don't get triggered by some pretty heavy topics, because there is a warning on every single episode, but there needs to be warnings on every single fucking scene. But I'd give it a solid 6 out of 10 overall if I had to rate it. Is it problematic? I'm honestly not the one you should be asking, but honestly, it's just very unrealistic, and impressionable teens might want to live that reality. That's all I'm saying. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like. I'm still trying to figure out this channel, and this is my first video like this, so I'm always open to new ideas and constructive criticism. But for my Manifest fans out there, my next video will be about Manifest, so don't you worry. But again, there's going to be a lot more videos like this, especially for such polarizing shows like Euphoria, so make sure to let me know how you felt about Euphoria in the comments below. Do you like it? Do you think I should keep watching? What characters do you like the most? What shows should I review in the future? And as always, make sure to subscribe and turn on those notification buttons. I'll see you next time. Shout out Sydney.